Welcome to Resonant News. Today we are deep diving into a topic that's been buzzing in the strategic circles, and it's called the Modi Doctrine. This bold strategy has been shaped by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speeches and India's recent actions, which includes Operation Sindoor. It is redefining India's approach towards its arch rival, Pakistan. Ideally, I would hate to hyphenate India and Pakistan, but under these circumstances, we have to do so. In any case, let me tell you, Modi's doctrine is not just about Pakistan. There's China involved. I have broken down this analysis into four pillars, and here's the surprising part. The Modi doctrine isn't just about strengthening India. It's also about forcing Pakistan to prioritize its people in the near future. Sounds unbelievable, isn't it? Stick with me as we unpack how this game changing strategy works. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's dive in. Let's start with the first pillar, redefining terrorism as an act of war. For decades, Pakistan was aware of its weakness, which is a smaller size of military, and Pakistan knew that if India and Pakistan were to go for a conventional war, India will drag Pakistan into a war and then defeat it. Result 1971, Kargil, and all the times India and Pakistan have come face to face conventionally. This is why Pakistan Army decided to opt for unconventional tactics, and they chose the most hideous of all the unconventional tactics, which is terrorism. Pakistan's strategy was simple. They used non-state actors, aka terrorists, to attack India, and then they denied any involvement. Why? Because they always believed India would not consider terrorism as an act of war, terrorism as a threshold of war. In one sentence, threshold of war is when a country's provocations, like a major military or political act, it escalates tensions into an open conflict. So if the threshold of war was here, around my eye level, Pakistan was doing everything below that threshold of war, and terrorism was one of them. This is why even after 26/11, Indian government back then decided not to act against Pakistan because it was not considered, terrorism was not considered an act of war. Pakistan thought it had a free pass. It could send terrorists, cause chaos, and avoid retaliation. Yet, Pakistan Army behind the scenes directly trained terrorist elements like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen, and it even trains ISIS Khorasan province, which Taliban has accused it of multiple times in last few years. A recent example of Pakistan's involvement in terrorism is Pahalgam attack. One of the recent examples of Pakistan Army's direct involvement in training terrorists was Pahalgam attack in 2025. Hashim Musa, who was involved in the attack, who was part of the attack on innocents inside India in Kashmir, is an SSG commando who belongs to Pakistan Army. Now, we have on multiple occasions in the past also witnessed this. This isn't new. Pakistan has a history of using serving and retired commandos in its border action team, which is called the BAT team. These units would infiltrate into India, they would target our soldiers, our civilians, and then exfiltrate. This was very regular. We have even seen ex-SSG commandos of Pakistan Army join terrorist groups like ISIS. There are examples where two brothers from the Pakistan Army actually joined ISIS, and one of their senior officers had to be removed for his links with ISIS. And it's not just military acting rogue. Pakistan's politicians are also complicit. Very recently, we had released a video where Pakistan's defense minister was spotted with Talha Said. Talha Said is the son of Mohammed Said, chief of terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba. So Pakistan's defense minister and Talha Said were on camera caught whispering to each other. And it was very visible that the terrorist Talha Said was sitting and defense minister of Pakistan, Khwaja Asif, was standing beside him. My point here is Pakistan's establishment's direct involvement in training terrorists is very evident. Very recently, their defense minister even confessed to training terrorists. These terrorist attacks not just threaten India's security, they create long term psychological scars and internal turmoil. And this is exactly where Pakistan even tried to insert the wedge of religion between Indian citizens. This is why the terrorist attacks were carried out on the basis of religion. If at all Pakistan plans to attack India, India's nuclear triad will get activated. India's land based missile, air delivered warheads, and submarine launched nukes ensure mutually assured destruction. This is the policy we are following right now. And India's defense minister, Rajnath Singh, this is exactly what he was saying, that we are reconsidering this strategy. If Pakistan fires a nuke, India's response would definitely be devastating. But if India fires first, Pakistan will be left with no other option but to kneel down in front of India. By calling Pakistan's nuclear bluff, the Modi doctrine neutralizes this nuclear posturing adopted by Pakistan, forcing Pakistan to rethink its reckless strategy and focus on protecting its own citizens. The third pillar is one of the most strategic, and it is the Indus Water Treaty, or the IWT as it's known. In 2025, India's decision to put IWT in abeyance grabbed global headlines. So, why is this a big deal? Indus Water and its tributaries are Pakistan's lifeline, supporting agriculture and daily life. And as per their own politicians' confession, 9 out of 10 people living in Pakistan depend on Indus Water River. Water, like sleep, is a basic human need. Without it, survival is impossible. By controlling water flow, India can create long term pressure on Pakistan. Reduced or inconsistent water supply could spark chaos in Pakistan, organic grassroots unrest that the government and Pakistan army won't be able to ignore. Imagine protests, water shortages, and economic strain all happening at once. This chaos would force Pakistan establishment to divert its resources to manage the internal chaos, investing in their own people for a change. This is why I said Modi doctrine is a win for Pakistanis too. It pushes their army and government to prioritize their own citizens' welfare, something they have neglected while focusing on external conflicts. And do you know, all these years while Pakistan was undergoing economic strain, Pakistani officers and Pakistan Army's salary has only gone up. Anyways, I'll continue with this part in the next pillar that I'm going to explain. The next pillar of the Modi doctrine, it is the most debated pillar. It is Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Some argue that integrating POJK into India would cause chaos, but let's challenge that. Did China hesitate before taking over Tibet, thinking that Tibetans would revolt and they would not integrate? Or did Russia pause before annexing parts of Ukraine, assuming that they will protest against Russia? Any king in the past, did he consider this before taking over any part in the world? So we should stop worrying about that, and there are multiple ways of handling that. One, by declaring POJK as a special region and bringing about some special rules, harsher and stricter rules, using de-radicalization centers. It'll take 1, 2, 3 decades, but ultimately POJK will be able to integrate into India. If Pakistan could take over that part and brainwash the people, we could do the same. We could do reverse brainwash. Yes, it'll take time. We don't have to cut the wings of our dreams. Now, here's something. POJK is a strategic gold mine that people should not give up on. This is what I strongly believe. Gilgit-Baltistan, for example, Gilgit-Baltistan, it sits at the tri-junction of South, Central and East Asia, a gateway to Afghanistan and Central Asia via the Wakhan corridor. Controlling it would give India direct access to Tajikistan and beyond, which will boost our trade and diplomacy. More critically, it would disrupt the China-Pakistan economic corridor and the China-Pakistan nexus in the area. This corridor is the backbone of China-Pakistan alliance, giving Beijing the access to Indian Ocean because they constantly keep facing problem while coming through Strait of Malacca. This I have explained multiple times in my previous video that Chinese ships have to go through certain trade choke points and they want to avoid it, and this is why BRI CPEC it came into existence. Anyways, coming back to my point, POJK. Taking POJK would weaken this axis between Pakistan and China, and it will counter Chinese growing influence in the region. See, supposing if Pakistan stops to exist tomorrow, we still have another nuclear armed enemy to worry about, and it is called China. India's defense of Siachen, it shows its resolve to block the China-Pakistan nexus. The PM Modi has made it very clear. From now on, India's talk with Pakistan will focus only on terrorism and POJK. By prioritizing POJK, India secures its northern borders and strengthens its geopolitical hand. Earlier I had mentioned that Modi doctrine is not just about Pakistan, it's also about countering China. We must understand that China uses Pakistan to cause a lot of chaos inside India. In fact, Pahalgam attack itself, it was a provocation by Pakistan keep Indian resources busy along the India's western border. Do you know since last 2 or 3 years, the terrorist groups from Pakistan have been regularly saying that we will force your soldiers who are now concentrated along India's border with China to come towards Pakistani border. Why would a terrorist group say that? The whole agenda is to force India to stop concentrating along its eastern border and concentrate its resources toward the western border. And this is exactly what China uses Pakistan for. Pahalgam attack is another such example. The terrorist attacks in Rajouri, Punch are other examples. I have produced many proof through multiple videos of mine, and I have released a whole series on how China is on a back foot. And in September I had released a video where I had explained in three parts why China will force Pakistan to keep India busy. And Pahalgam is one such example. We had no other option than to attack Pakistan, and that too conventionally. This is exactly what China wanted. I have given multiple proof on this. I have already explained this in multiple videos, so I'm not going back to the same thing. But as I said, I had already predicted this in September 2024. You can go back and check my statements from back then. I'm not saying that I predicted and hence it came true. I have that confidence. I did my analysis right. I did my research right, and this is why I got it right. But the point I'm trying to make is that China would keep using Pakistan to keep India busy, be it the states in the eastern part of India, be it the Naxal corridor, be it Pakistan, be it terrorism, be it blocking India from declaring Pakistani terrorists as globally designated terrorists in United Nations. China has played a very strong role in keeping Indian resources busy internally. So yes, Modi doctrine is not just about Pakistan, but it is also about China. The ultimate aim of Modi doctrine is division of Pakistan, is to push Pakistan into non-existence. Let us underline that. Also, Modi doctrine is a seismic shift in India's strategy, treating terrorism as war, dismantling Pakistan's nuclear blackmail, using water as leverage, and eyeing POJK to secure India's future. Remarkably, it could push Pakistan to focus on its own people. Do tell me about your opinion about my analysis in the comment section. This is an analysis I'm posting after a long time because I really thought that what I have said, I was waiting for what I had said to come true. Once again, not because I said it, because I knew this is exactly where we are headed. So I was waiting for it, and a lot of people did ask me why am I not posting analysis as often as I used to post earlier. So this was a reason, and so do tell me in comment section.